Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Money Down Pod. That is my guy, Sean White. I am Kayvon Zombie. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this lovely, lovely day to talk some NBA basketball as the playoffs are underway. Well, the play-in's underway, if you want to count that as the playoffs. I know there's a debate on whether people think that's the playoffs or not. But anyways, we are here to talk NBA. The Lakers, were putting a nail in the coffin on the Lakers. There will be no more talk about them. And then we'll break down some matchups. And then me and Sean will give you guys our top 5 players in this year's playoffs under the most pressure as the playoffs get underway this weekend. Sean, how are you doing, my man?
Doing great. Sorry about that. Doing great. Rocking the Kings fit because, we're setting the record and not making the playoffs year after year. Had to bring it out. Dumpster fire fan over here. That's where you can find me on Twitter because I cheer for these dumpster fire teams. Kings can't make the playoffs to save their life. Can't even make the play-in. Can't even finish higher than the terrible Lakers we're going to talk about. So that's where we're at on my team out there. Happy for these playoffs to get started, though. If you have been paying attention, we got the NFL draft coming up. We're going to do several draft pods. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to be celebrating. I'm Patrick Beverly out there during the draft because that's the hope time for everybody. And if you didn't catch our last video, we responded to some comments about the Dolphins. All you NBA fans, any Laker fans, any big LeBron fans, respond to this video. We'll respond to you. Just want to get that engagement up out there so we can talk to people listening, debate with you all. We love to do that. But yeah, I can't wait to get this pod underway.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Everything Sean said, spot on. Reach out on YouTube or hit us up on Twitter at MoneyDownPod. And Sean, let's just get it going right here because the Lakers were an absolute disaster. I honestly didn't think they were going to follow the play-in, but after the last 2 weeks, I didn't even know if I wanted them to make the play-in, man. It was just such a disaster to watch. There was no chemistry. There was no camaraderie. Everyone was blaming each other. It was one of the most disappointing teams in NBA history. It really was. I mean, that's just what it is. And now we can finally stop talking about them until the fall comes around and we have to decide what the hell they're going to do. But to me, the most fascinating thing is this, Sean. I watched the exit interviews. Frank Vogel, he was obviously going to get fired, but the Lakers should be ashamed of themselves. Jeannie Buss should be ashamed of herself that she allowed that firing to go down the way that she did. You're the Los Angeles Lakers. You are the premier of the premier, and you are letting your head coach, who, by the way, I don't care what people want to say about Frank Vogel, he won a championship. In the last 2 years, there are 2 coaches that have a championship. It's Frank Vogel and it's Mike Buttenholzer. 2 years, all right? We are talking about that. It's not that far away. The man won a championship. And then 2 years later, he is finding out that he's gotten fired from a reporter telling him that Woj tweeted it out. And he said, I had no idea about this yet. It's disgusting. It's the worst possible way you can run your organization. And honestly, I'm serious, man. Jeannie Buss is a lovely lady and she's a great owner. But this was a disaster. And it all comes down to her on this. I don't care if Rob Pelinka was the one that made the call and he was the one that told Woj and it got out. She cannot allow her organization to be run like that. And it's going to hurt them. It's an embarrassment. It's an absolute embarrassment to go on to the embarrassment of the season, which I'll get into in a minute, but I just want to start with that.
Yeah, Vogel, the way they handled Vogel was just utterly terrible to handle anything like that. Even if he's a terrible coach, you don't handle firing a coach like that. Very unprofessional. And all you Laker fans can come join me over here with the dumpster fire that I cheer for. I mean, we're in the same boat right now. The way your organization's ran, just awful. It's a dumpster fire. That's the way you describe it. You can't fire coaches and then find out through the media right after a game. You just fire him mid-game. You just tell Woj and all this. They drop it mid-game. And Woj is going to try to be first, so he's dropping that thing the minute he finds out. That's how NBA Twitter works. We all know how this goes.
Yeah.
Terribly embarrassing for them. He won you a championship. He was a great coach for you. And, I mean, even if you try to put blame this year, he might deserve a little bit of blame. But, I mean, this wasn't his team. He doesn't deserve a ton of it. It wasn't who he wanted out there. Terrible way to handle it. And that's on Jeannie Buss. You're right. And I mean, if you're watching Winning Time right now on HBO, you saw it's kind of a fly by the seat of your pants type thing. But man, Jerry would have never had that happen. He made
Never.
sure that he actually knew about it beforehand. He never let the media be able to write narratives like that and everything. And Jeannie's got to do a better job. I don't know who her inner circle is that helps her run the team, but it's been pretty bad ever since then. And you can tell the way they butt heads with Clutch and LeBron too. It's going to get ugly down the stretch here. I think this is going to be an ugly next 2-3 years for the Lakers, and an ugly 2-3 years to really end LeBron's career. To be honest with you, just the way the mismanagement's going on and how things are going with the power struggle. They're kind of trapped in some contracts that I know we'll bring up and talk about, but kind of just a horrible situation there. But you got to fire your coach with more dignity than that, and they didn't do that.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's just you can never allow something like that to happen in any organization or company, and especially when you're the Lakers. And the fall that has happened from 2 years ago is absurd. And listen, I saw some people, and I'm not going to get into this because this is just the dumbest argument I've ever seen in my life, but I saw some people bring up how this is justification that the bubble title was a sham and all that stuff. Just to put this to rest, this has nothing to do with 2 years ago. The bubble was actually the most fair tournament that could have ever been played in pro sports because every single team had the same conditions, had the same courts, had the same no fans, and had the same amount of rest. So I'm done with that. Just stop it, okay? They won a title. It's a fair title, and now we're at a disaster point here. When it comes to Vogel, real quick, I think he is a good coach, and I think he's gotten a terrible rap this year. But I do think we also are seeing that Jason Kidd had a ton to do with that defense the championship season. If you go look at the Lakers defense that championship season, and even last year for most of the year before AD got hurt, their defense was top 3 in the league the whole time. The whole time. Then AD got hurt last year and everything went to hell. Jason Kidd's now with the Mavericks. They've been top 5 defense the entire time. And the Mavericks were a really bad defense the year before Jason Kidd got there. So I'm not saying that Vogel's not a good coach, but I think that I think that the Lakers made a terrible move by letting Jason Kidd leave that building. And the plan from the beginning was to have Jason Kidd take over eventually anyways. So they should have never allowed that to happen. Now, would they still be a disaster? Probably, most likely, but I don't think it would be as bad as it got. The main thing comes down to, and it's simple, it's the roster. It's the roster. And whether you want to blame LeBron or you want to blame the front office, that doesn't matter to me. Honestly, I think I blame both because I blame LeBron for thinking that Russell Westbrook would make this fit because he is too much of a basketball savant to think that his game would fit with Westbrook's game. And I get it. These guys are cocky. They think they can make everything work. But that, to me, is mind-blowing. But it's even more mind-blowing, Sean, that the front office didn't get in the way of it. Because of the fact that I just said, LeBron is going to think that he can make anything work because he's taken a team with Ilgauskas as his second-best player to the NBA Finals. So LeBron's never going to sit here and say, I can't make that work. He's always going to think that. The fact that the front office didn't jump in and say, we are going to destroy not only our future because we can't get rid of Russell after we get him, but also this season if we make this move. They didn't do that. And because of that, it is all an absolute disaster. And I don't know how they're going to get up to it, man. I don't know how they're going to fix any of this. I really don't. I don't know a way out of it. And it sucks to say that. It really does. But I'm sitting here thinking, and I can't think of one single way to change this team around by the time next year starts. And it's going to be another year where LeBron is still able to play well, but it just means absolutely nothing. And I'll say it. This was the most disappointing season I've seen in NBA history. When you put together the amount of talent and the amount of money spent on that talent. I called it. I didn't know it was going to be this bad, but I said it from the beginning. Russell Westbrook's not going to work. I just didn't think it was going to be this bad.
Yeah, it was as bad as it could possibly be on every front from that situation with Westbrook. We called it. Like I said, we were talking about it from everyone called it. Let's be honest. Everyone but LeBron and the Lakers called this. So, and I mean, LeBron doubled down with the tweet. I know everybody was sharing it around
Yeah.
after the play, and he deserves that. That was well deserved on that part. You're going to talk shit, you got to back it up, and he did.
Yep.
So, here's the thing that you got to look at moving forward, because what we keep talking about is this organizational structure. It's going to be some Game of Thrones level type stabbing each other in the back. And you've already seen it happen in these last few days. You saw the comments Magic made about DeMar DeRozan, and the Lakers wanted to do that. And then LeBron wanted Westbrook kind of thing. Magic saying that on the organization's behalf. Let's be honest. That's coming from inside the org. Then you got Clutch and LeBron, who's not going to take kindly to those words, saying, "Oh, hey, well, you should have said no, and this and that. You're the ones in charge." We're going to get some real butting heads going on in the back scenes of this. The thing that's gonna really affect it is, does AD get traded? Because that's the only real big move you can make that can kind of change things up a little bit. Westbrook, you're not going to get much back for him. You're going to get the same bad contracts, maybe on 2 or 3. And yes, it'll be addition by subtraction, but it's not going to be enough to put you over the edge for a championship, in my opinion. AD would have to come back and be an AD that he was before even the championship level, where he was carrying a team and LeBron being a number 2. And I don't see AD doing that. I don't think AD wants to put in that work anymore, to be honest. And you hate calling out guys for stuff like that, but nothing AD has done since that title has shown that he really cares about being in tip-top shape and winning titles like that and being the alpha and number 1 guy. He really doesn't show that at all. But here's where it's going to get interesting. If LeBron chooses that he doesn't want AD as his number 2 anymore, that's a Clutch Sports client. So we're going to really see some headbutting and behind-the-scenes action going on between Clutch in itself and then Clutch with the Lakers trying to work out what's going on there. That's going to be some fascinating theater, and I really do wish we could get a behind-the-scenes look at what's going on there, because I know one thing. LeBron isn't happy right now.
No.
LeBron can't be happy with how this season ended, especially with the high level of play he had at his age. I'm sure he wanted to go on and make a deep playoff run, possibly win another championship at his age, to really keep that GOAT conversation talking and going, because I know you feel he's the GOAT, but people like me don't go that way, and there's obviously some people that can be swung. So he feels like if he can make these deep playoff runs at his age, that maybe he can swing that conversation to the people that haven't counted out right now. That isn't going to happen with the way the team is set up, and he's kind of just going to be chasing points at this point and just longevity records because his team can't compete. So that AD trade's the one to watch for. Really curious to see how the organization handles this, and I'm really curious to see if we see Shams, who's kind of a clutch guy, and Woj, who's going to be attached to the Lakers, start throwing out these bombs left and right. They really start slinging mud at each other. It'll be fascinating to watch moving forward.
You're spot on, and I'm so glad you brought up AD here, because I want to mention this. And a lot of people have blamed AD and everything that he's done. But if you think about it, Sean, most people are blaming Russell Westbrook and LeBron James and the Lakers organization. And they're saying, and of course, AD can't stay healthy. I can make an argument that the reason why the Lakers are in this spot right now is because AD hasn't lived up to what he's supposed to be. It's that simple. Look at the Lakers when AD has played like the AD that they gave away their future to get. They're the number 1 seed throughout the West the entire year, and they win the championship. Look at last year when AD was playing at the beginning. Well, they were in the running. They were beating teams. Everything was going well, and then everything went to hell after that. After he was out of shape, after he got hurt. If AD simply lived up to the AD that everybody thought that he was going to be, this Lakers team would be I'm not saying they would be a championship team, because again, the roster just isn't that good. But I'm telling you, AD, it's that simple, Sean. If AD just lives up to the player that he was supposed to be, this team is in the playoffs right now. This team is probably a top 6 seed in the West right now. AD has dropped the ball in every single facet of the way this trade has gone down since the first year. And it's the biggest, it's a disaster, man. It hurts because he's so talented. And you put him with because everyone thought, okay, AD's going to do his. Is LeBron going to still be able to play good as he gets older? And LeBron has held his on, And it's AD that's not there for LeBron. And because of that, man, that is why we are in this spot. Again, there's been mistakes. LeBron's made mistakes with bringing in Westbrook. Westbrook played terrible. The front office has made mistakes. But I promise you all this. It would have been nowhere near this bad if AD was AD. It would have been nowhere near this bad if AD was AD. He is the biggest issue in this entire part.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think you really give them about the fourth or fifth best chance to get out of the West. And I could argue that maybe second, depending on when they catch teams. I think they have no chance of beating the Suns. I know everyone likes to bring up last year's series with the Suns. Real different series there when you have Caruso and KCP on the outside who's able to D up a Booker and Paul and all of them a little bit better. I think the Suns would dominate them even if AD was healthy just because of the way the roster is constructed. And it's another year the Suns have more experience. They're good to go. Here's where you get dicey. I think if you catch the Grizzlies or the Mavericks early in the playoffs, I think that if AD was healthy, they'd have a shot against them.
Dang.
Now, if you catch the Grizzlies later on, I think the Grizzlies might have too much firepower and they won't have that nerves or less big game experience. They might be ready to go. But I like I said, the Lakers will be right there in the conversation of being one of the teams to get out of the West, I believe, if AD's healthy right now. It's just sad to see, man, because you see this with athletes all the time. There's just some athletes that just don't take the time to get their body right. They just rely on their talent. And that's kind of what AD has been doing. We all agree Russell Westbrook at least works hard in the offseason to get his body right, works hard. He doesn't improve a shot any, but I mean, I don't think he can help that at this point. But he works hard to be on the floor and make sure he's healthy to go. And AD just doesn't put in that work. It's going to be something to watch moving forward because I really do think they probably need to move him. But at the same time, he's a clutch LeBron guy. It's going to be real interesting to see if that even happens or what the Lakers as a franchise really feel like doing because I know they're not going to want to give away those 27 and 29 unprotected picks, man. And that's the only way you're going to be able to move things right now for the right now. If you're going to improve your team in the next 2-3 years, you're going to have to move those picks. And I know they don't want to do that because once LeBron's gone, that's looking like a team that might be picking in the top 5. And if you send those unprotected picks, you're losing your draft pick up there, possibly even the number 1. Real interesting to see going forward. And I know one thing, Kayvon is probably very happy that the season's over because I'm sure he's ready to not watch that Lakers team that we had to witness anymore and hopefully move on to a different one next year.
Yeah, no, I can't watch that team play at all anymore. And that it comes, they will have to attach they're going to have to attach the 2027 pick to honestly probably trade Westbrook. Honestly, someone will take on Westbrook's cap, maybe even OKC. They might take him back. Pacers, but they're not going to just do it just to do it. They're going to say, hey, look, that 2027 pick, that's really appealing for us because that could be a top 5 pick back in that time. So they're going to have to do it, and they will end up doing it, but it's a disaster. But I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you right now, if they don't trade AD and for some miraculous reason, something clicks in his brain and he comes back as a player that he was in New Orleans and as a player that he was the first year with the Lakers, they'll be a top 5 team in the West next year, no matter what moves they make other than that. No matter what moves. AD is the whole big part of this, and that's why I bet LeBron maybe is willing to have him get out because he's probably seen enough at this point.
Yeah, one last thing that I want to ask you. So I know this happens with Laker fans all the time. Laker fans love to act like every single free agent or big star is going to get traded to them or go there. So we're already doing this with coaches, right? We're throwing Nick Nurse out there. We're throwing out Monty Williams somehow, which he's never leaving. I saw that on the internet today. I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, they'll just trade for Monty Williams somehow, like just trade a pick to get a coach. I don't understand where that's coming from either. So Quinn Snyder seems to be one of the better coaches that has a legit shot just because his contract's up apparently, which is where that's coming from. I don't think they trade for a coach. I think they need to get that out of there. I don't think a coach is going to be like, yeah, let me go. I'm going to go to the Lakers. So who realistically do you see as the coach? It's probably either Quinn Snyder or who would be your top 2 or 3 choices right here.
Yeah, I would look out for these names. I actually like Quinn Snyder a lot. I'd be happy with that. I would definitely look out for Doc Rivers. If the Sixers do not beat Toronto in the first round, Doc Rivers will be fired. It's complete facts. They're gonna bring in Mike D'Antoni. Doc Rivers will be fired, and I would look out for him coming to the Lakers. And then the last one I would look out for is Mark Jackson. LeBron has liked and loved Mark Jackson for a long time now, and he wanted him to come back in the league. He's never liked that he hasn't gotten a job since Golden State. Look out for that. But I also would say this. LeBron's not, like, I want to get this under people's head. LeBron has power. It's LeBron James. He does not have the power that everyone thinks. Remember, LeBron wanted Ty Lue, and the organization told him to F off. They told him to fuck off. We're hiring Frank Vogel. Okay? So they have told LeBron to beat it before. We're not doing it your way, which is why I put so much onus on the organization for allowing this Westbrook trade to happen. So just because LeBron wants Mark Jackson, I wouldn't count on it, because I think Kirk Rambis and Linda Rambis are the ones that are making these decisions, which is the biggest joke ever. And they have more power than LeBron or Rob Pelinka for some reason. So those are the coaches that I think LeBron wants, but I don't think LeBron's going to get what he wants. So I have no idea where they go from there. But those are the three I would watch out for.
Yeah, the Mark Jackson smoke seems to be there for sure. Definitely, definitely would think Quinn Snyder, if they can get him, would probably be the best choice. If Kurt Rambis ends up coaching the team, I think everyone would jump shit.
I'm out. I won't watch him. I won't watch him at all. I can't. And I love LeBron more than life. Like, I won't watch him if Kurt Rambis is jumping.
That's just such a weird situation. I know when we talk NFL, we talk about Easterby with the Texans. Like, that must be like what Linda Rambis is to the Lakers organization.
It must be. She
just
must
like
have
a random unqualified person that makes all the decisions.
She must have some voodoo over Jeannie Buss, because it's absurd, man. It's absolutely absurd. This is the Money Down Pod. That is Sean White. I am Kayvon Izami. We are here talking NBA as the playoffs are underway, and it's super exciting times. I love NBA playoffs. Great time of the year as we have the NFL draft coming around the corner too. Stay tuned for all of those draft videos that we have coming out leading up to the draft in 2 weeks. And then remember, we will be doing a live show on YouTube Thursday night, draft night. We will live show the entire first round from pick 1 to pick 32. We'll do a little pregame talk before then too. It's going to be unfiltered. It's going to be true raw emotions. And it's going to be fun. So come join us for that. We will, if you make comments while we're live, we will answer those comments. We'll do everything to interact with you guys if you join us. So please do. That will be on YouTube on draft night. Sean, let's get into some of these matchups. And in just a minute, guys, we're going to break down our top 5 players with the most pressure on them as they go into these NBA playoffs right now. But the matchups are set for the most part. We're still trying to figure out who the 8th seed is in both conferences. We don't know exactly what that's going to be yet. We know that the Hawks, they just won against the Hornets. They will be the 8th seed in the East. And excuse me. They still have to play the Cavs to figure out the 8th seed. So we don't know that one yet. And we do know that the Timberwolves are going to be the 7th seed in the East. And we don't know what's going to happen in the West. Excuse me. We don't know what's going to happen 8-wise in the West. So for the matchups that we have now, Sean, we've got, obviously, in the East, we've got Miami versus the winner of Cleveland and Atlanta. We've got Boston versus Brooklyn. We've got Milwaukee versus Chicago. We've got Philadelphia versus Toronto. In the East, what are you most excited for in the first round?
Well, I think the obvious answer is going to be Nets Celtics. That's probably what everyone's most excited for. You got Kyrie coming back to where the team he left. You got Tatum, who's trying to be an emerging top 5 player in the league. And you obviously have KD, who's out there trying to win this thing. And if you sprinkle in the Ben Simmons rumors on top of that, it's going to be a spicy series.
It is.
I'll tell you what, that's going to be a fun one to watch. If we're making predictions, I'm going to go with the Nets, which might surprise Kayvon. Kayvon might be going with the Celtics.
No, I knew you were going to go with the Nets.
Yeah, so I'm going with the Nets. I love how Kyrie's playing. Now that he's a full-time player, I think that gives them enough to beat a Celtics team. If we're going to move on, we're going to do a prediction show. I'm not saying they're going to win it all, but I do think they have enough to beat the Celtics because I'm not a big Celtics buyer, especially with Williams out. I don't think that defense is going to maintain, and I think they're really just a lot of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, to be honest. And I don't know how well those guys are going to be able to get over the hump. You see them struggle every now and then. Tatum's that dude, but I like KD and Kyrie against them. I think they're going to be able to play well enough, put up enough buckets. It's going to be an interesting series, though. I think that could go 7 for sure.
I think that's going to be a fascinating series, and you're spot on about the Robin Williams situation. I'm telling you this right now. You can call it a hot take. If Robin Williams is in this series, the Celtics are winning in a 5-game series. They're winning 4-1. They are blowing out the Nets because the Nets have no big man prowess, and don't tell me Andre Drummond. And
did you see Drummond last? I'm just like,
yeah, get out of here. Like the Nets are not a good basketball team. They had, like, I just want to break this down to people. Last night against Cleveland, without Jared Allen and with a hurt Evan Mobley and without Colin Sexton, they won the first quarter by 20, and then they lost the second, third, and fourth quarter. They lost all 3 of those quarters other than their fast start in the beginning. They didn't even cover against this bad Cleveland team, which is not good this last month of the season. The Nets they're so dependent on KD and Kyrie offensively, yet they're not dependent on anybody defensively because they're so bad defensively. And because of that, Boston is going to score. They're going to score. And this year, it's much more than just Jaylen and Jason, dude. They've got things going. Derek White's doing well. Marcus Smart's doing well. Al Horford's doing well. The only thing that worries me is Robin Williams was such a big part of their team. And their defense didn't really fall off that much. Just what he did inside for them is the perfect matchup against this Nets team. It's the perfect matchup. That's why the Bucks are so good against them, because they can physically hurt them down low. And I'm a little bit worried what they're going to do without him against this Nets team, but I still think that the Celtics are good enough where they win this game in 6. And we're going to make this series in 6. We're going to make our predictions, but I am rolling with the Celtics here. And I'm telling you this, man, you're so right about spiciness. The crowd against Kyrie against his former teammates, the clippings that we're going to hear from them after the game. It is going to be must-watch TV every step of the way. But I'm telling you, the Nets defense is absolutely atrocious. It is the worst possible defense that I think we have left in this east side of the bracket. And because of that, I can't ride with them.
So here's one thing that I do want to see. I want to see if Ben Simmons will come back and just play defense. Like, literally just nothing else, just play defense. Well, I want them to take him out and be like, guard the best player on the other team every game. And that's all I need you to do. Because in reality, if KD and Kyrie shoot like they did last night and he just guards the best player, they got a shot at beating about anybody.
No doubt. But that's my point. That's my point. Until I see him come back, I'm not talking about it because I don't believe Ben Simmons is coming back. And even if he does, and I'm asking this seriously question, is he really going to be good at defense? Bro, he hasn't played basketball in over a year. Like, I don't know if he can even, he has a truly hurt back. I don't know if he can even play defense anymore, man. Like, I don't know what Ben Simmons is even more. And as good as they shot last night, they still lost the second, third, and fourth quarter to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And they shot, and Kyrie didn't miss a damn shot until the third quarter. And they still lost all 3 of those quarters. Like, if you're spot on, though, if he can come back and he can play Ben Simmons level defense, then you're going to win this pick. You'll win this pick. It will be huge. I have zero faith that happens, though.
Yep, that is the case. I'm still taking them even without Ben. I just don't buy Boston. Boston has to show me stuff for me to really buy into them. I mean, not even this series. They need to beat like the next series really give a run in the Eastern Conference Finals. I just don't trust their team makeup because I don't trust. I trust Tatum. I don't really trust Brown. If we're being honest, that's kind of where it is for me on that. How it is with KD and Kyrie though, they both could get buckets, man. That was crazy last night. But I'm gonna be honest with you. The reason the Cavs lost is because they're inexperienced. They came out too slow. It's like you said, they won the last 3 quarters.
Yeah.
If they had any bit of experience, they'd have won that game.
They
Like
would've.
this next year, and the Nets are in the same space without Simmons playing, they win that game right
They
there.
do,
If
without
that's
a
the
doubt.
case. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's by far the most intriguing series in the East.
for sure. And this is, though, I think, bro, this isn't as intriguing, but I think this is really close to it. The 76ers and the Raptors series
Number 2.
is fascinating. And we're going to get into why that is in just a little bit I am at least when I give off my pressure list here. Hint, hint. But this is a must-watch series because of the way James Harden has played since the trade. He has not been good. Joel Embiid is my pick for MVP. I think he's been incredible. I think he has been awesome. And remember, Matisse Thybulle will not be playing in games in Toronto. He has the first shot, so he should play, in my opinion, but he doesn't have the second shot, so he can't play in Toronto. I know he's not a scorer, but he can help out locking up guys at any way you look at it. And another thing I want to say here is they're going to need James Harden to be James Harden here, because one thing that Toronto does really well, they're very long. They're very long and defensive, which is kind of can disrupt Joel Embiid. I think Joel Embiid will have a great series and get his, but they are one team that can give him some fits because of their length down low with guys like Pascal Siakam and even the rookie Scotty Barnes. Like, these guys are long dudes that can give Joel some fits. Harden has to be Harden, or they're going to lose this series to Toronto, and Philadelphia is going to kill them. Like, the city is going to kill them.
Yeah, that is definitely a possibility. This is definitely the second best series, like you said. We were on the same page with that, and that pressure list is going to be interesting now because I think we're on the same page with one or two of those too. So here we go with this Toronto team, the Toronto team that no one watches, no one knows anything about.
Yep.
I mean, they are the most fly under the radar team out there.
So
But
right.
I'll tell you what, I don't think you gave enough props to how hard it is to play without Thibault in the series, because in Toronto, Gary Trent Jr. might microwave them. I mean, Gary Trent Jr. is one of the most underrated scorers out there right now. Dude is hitting everything. He's due for 30 or 40 when he gets hot, and without Thibault out there to guard man-to-man on him, it's going to be interesting to see. He might can put up some points out in Toronto. You got a solid team. Van Fleet was in and out of the lineup all year, so that was one thing that hurt them as well. But me and you both kind of questioned the Scotty Barnes pick, but he's been great.
Yeah.
Siakam's back playing to his standard and everything too. They're a sneaky team. Toronto's a fun watch too. But you're right, Harden has got to play better. It's all about Harden playing to his standard, or at least get close to it. Because Embiid's going to do his job. I think Maxey will be solid. He's just got to get over some playoff jitters and really get out of this little slump he went on at the end of the year. But Harden's got to be that guy. That's what they traded him for. And if they don't, the city is going to be up in arms because Philly takes this so seriously.
So seriously. And they gave away a lot to get Harden. And you don't lose in the first round, to Toronto. And no disrespect to Toronto, because you're right. I mean, I'm so glad you gave Gary Trent his props. That dude can ball. OG Anunoby can play defense. Pascal Siakam has looked like an all-star for the most part of this year. And Fred VanVleet, when he's in the lineup, he's been great. Like, they got freaking Precious Achiuwa is out of Memphis, is like a big man hitting threes out of nowhere lately. Like, they can play some basketball. And if they're not prepared, man, they will lose to Toronto, and it would be a disaster. It would be an absolute disaster. So I'm right with you on that.
Could you imagine Philly if they lose in the first round and Ben Simmons comes back and the Nets beat the Celtics?
It'd be. It would be a disaster for Harden, bro. It'd be a disaster for Harden for the way he forced his way out. And I'm telling you, that's possible. It is possible for both of those things to happen. Real quick, want to ask you this. I think that Milwaukee is going to wipe the living floor with the Bulls. I think the Bulls have no shot. Lonzo Ball's not coming back. This is the worst matchup that Chicago could have gotten. I like this young Chicago team. They're not ready, and this is literally the worst matchup, man. I feel bad for them. I really do.
Brooke Lopez is back. Giannis is in playoff form. It's going to be a sweep. Bring out the brooms. That one's over. I like the Bulls team as well, but without Lonzo, I don't think they can even get a game off of them. I think it's 4-0.
Completely agree. And then I want to ask you one, Miami, do you give, I think the Hawks will beat Cleveland. Do you give the Hawks any shot against Miami?
I think Cleveland or the Hawks can get one game off of them. I think it's probably 4-1. 4-1.
Completely. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Now let's move on to the West here. And again, we're going to give actual predictions of like the whole tournament this weekend before the game starts. So stay tuned for that. But just running down some of this, for those that do not watch these two teams, and a lot of people don't, get ready because the Memphis Grizzlies, Minnesota Timberwolves is going to be the NBA TV playoff series of the decade. Because you know how they always put one series on NBA TV, bro. Watch. They're going to put
small markets, yeah.
They're going to put this series on NBA TV, and it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be fast-paced. It's going to be energetic. It's going to be a bunch of young cats. Anthony Edwards, Ja Morant. I'm talking about young guys that could really run this league in a couple of years. And they're going to be going at it. This is my favorite series of the whole first round when it comes to just ball, just watching these two young teams go at it.
Yeah, took the words right out of my mouth. That's the one I'm most excited for too. You got John D'Angelo, you got Anthony Edwards, Dylan Brooks going up against each other. You got Jaren Jackson, and you got Cat out there. It's going to be a good series. I think Memphis has too much firepower for them, and we'll get to predictions again at that. But that's going to be a fun one to watch, especially just the high-flying nature of it. And you got two stars, Ja Morant and Anthony Edwards. They ain't scared of nothing out there. They're going to be playing, and they're ready to go. It's going to be a fun one to watch, that series.
No doubt about that. No doubt about that. And the Grizzlies lucked out a little bit. I think the Grizzlies would have beat the Clippers anyways, but Timberwolves beating the Clippers was huge because if Kawhi came back or something like that, the Clippers are weird, man. They're really good defensively up front and everything. They could have given that Grizzlies team a chance. Now they're going to get destroyed by the Suns, I think, but we'll get into that when it comes. Dallas, Utah is fascinating. And if you're a Mavs fan, I feel for you. I mean, for Luka to roll his ankle on the last game of the series when, I don't know if you saw this, Sean, he wasn't even supposed to play because he got that technical that was supposed to make him sit out, but then they took the technical back, so he wasn't suspended for the game, which ended up hurting them because if he gets a technical in the playoffs, he's going to have to sit out, right? Or does it not carry over? I don't know if it carries over or not.
I think you get like 3 or something. It might, I don't know. It's a weird rule.
Because they took it back, he played in the game and he rolled his ankle. And now, they have no shot. This Mavs team's awesome, and they play really well defensively. And Spencer Dinwiddie and Jalen Brunson are really fun guys to watch. Same with Dorian Finney-Smith, and these guys can shoot. And Hardaway Jr. But this is Luka or nothing. I think Luka's going to be fine, but if he's not, that's a disappointment because this series could be really fun.
Yeah. So Luka 100% healthy, they sweep him. That's how I feel. They sweep him. Okay. I don't think the Jazz would have any shot.
I like that.
Luka right now, if he doesn't go, obviously they get swept. It's the complete opposite. If Luka is 80%, I think they win in 6. I think they'll be fine.
I like it.
I love this Mavs team because Luka has went to another level, especially the second half of the season, being in shape and everything. This calf strain, it's going to be interesting. Let's see if he can get it over with, get it out there, and play at that 8%. But if you remember, he was cooking the Clippers with a bum ankle last year. Yeah. And as long as this calf strain is as serious as that, I think they have a really good shot of beating the Jazz pretty handily. Like I said, if he was 100%, I think they sweep him. I don't think the Jazz have anyone that can guard him. And I don't think the Jazz have good enough defense. He's just going to drive into Gobert and either dish it off or draw the foul. That's what he's going to do the whole time. He's on a different level, scoring, assisting, everything. And I really hope that he's at least 80, 85% so we can get a good series out of it. If he's really hurt, the Mavs have no shot. But if he can play, it's going to be a very good series to watch because you also have Mitchell who's prone to putting up 40-point games in the playoffs. So he'll be fun to watch on the other end. But I think J. Kidd will have a good defensive plan for him as well.
Yep, I love that take of yours, and I agree with it. Next one, which is fascinating, Golden State, Denver. How in the hell does Golden State do anything with Jokic? Who's Who's guarding Jokic? You tell me Draymond's locking him? Who is stopping Jokic on Golden State?
Yeah, that's a sad one too. Like I said, my wife's a Nuggets fan. So sad. If Jamal and Michael Porter Jr. are healthy, they might come out of the West and win the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's just the honest truth about it.
Yeah.
They're missing their second and third best players, though. Going to be really hard for them to have the firepower to keep up the scoring. But you're right. No one's stopping Jokic in that series. Jokic is going to dominate the floor. It's going to really come down to Steph Curry's health for the Warriors. If Steph Curry's healthy, I think the Warriors could probably win in 6. If not, I could count on to see a 7-game series going back and forth between two teams that are really hurt. That's probably going to end up getting buzzsawed by the Grizzlies in the next round just because of injuries.
Yeah, I think it's a 7-game series. I think it's a fascinating series. I don't think they have an answer for Jokic at all. I think he's going to put up monster numbers, but then I also think that Jordan Poole's a rising star, man. He's playing out of his mind. I think that Klay Thompson, who has been really iffy, I think he'll step up. But you're right. If Steph's got to play, Steph's got to be somewhat healthy for that to really be something. Those are the main ones. Again, we'll get into depth more when we break down what we're looking at. But now let's get into this part here. This is the Money Down Pod. That is Sean White. I am Kayvon Izami. Follow us on Twitter at Money Down Pod. Let us know your thoughts and your predictions. What is your favorite series in the first round? Who do you have sweeping? Do you have anyone sweeping? Do you have 7-game series? Let us know. Comment on this video or reach out to us on Twitter at Money Down Pod.
Should the Suns be able to win in 2 games? Because the next 2 are in no particular order, no reason to even play them because it'll be the quickest sweep of all time.
You're so right. Yeah, the Suns are just going to roll. It's going to be ridiculous. So with that being said, let's get into this. Me and Sean both came up with a list of the 5 players under the most pressure this NBA postseason. We're going to go 5 as the least pressure out of these top 5 and 1 as the most. Now, obviously, we believe all 5 have some sort of pressure on them, but number 1 is the most and number 5 is the least. Sean, you start us off. Who is your 5th player with the most pressure going into this postseason?
So this list is kind of interesting because I could have went a few ways.
Yes.
Jokic and Luka intrigue me, but Jokic has the injuries with this team, and now Luka strained his calf, so it's a little harder to really heap the pressure on. So 5 for me is Chris Paul. I think Chris Paul needs to go make a deep run and probably win this thing. He's been in the playoffs several times. His legacy kind of hinges on this. The only way he's really going to move up from his spot, the only real way he's going to be taken seriously in that top 4 point guard of all time kind of debate is if he goes and wins one. And I think this is probably his best chance in year to do that, especially with Ayton's contract situation coming up and everything. This is the chance for the Suns to win it this year. And Chris Paul needs to stay healthy a full postseason for once and go win him one. I don't think it really matters too much about dropping him in legacy or how he's looked at, so that's why he's at 5. But I do think he has some pressure to go win a title this year, so he's my 5th most pressure.
Yeah, that's a good one. And me and you think so similar with what you just said about Luka, because Luka's actually number 5 for me. And I almost decided to take him off once the injury happened, but this is why. I have such high respect for Luka. I think Luka is a superstar. I think he's a top 3 player in the game. And I think he will be the best player in the game, if not now, sometime soon. And because of that, he is now, and I hate to do this, but this is how we do things now. And when we talk about sports and sports media, this is how things have gone ever since Jordan won 6 rings. And then we compare LeBron with his rings. Luka hasn't won a first-round series yet. He's lost back-to-back first-round series. Unfortunately, it was to the Clippers both times. He's played his ass off. It's not like he has played bad. He's played amazing. But when you're this good, you got to win a series. And now they're 4th in the West. They have really good defense this time. They got rid of Porzingis, which seemed like a little bit of like a cancer in the locker room, an outlier. Again, not too, but I need to see him win a series. And again, and like you just said when breaking down that matchup, they have a great matchup. That Utah team is reeling. There's drama. Who knows if they like each other? Quinn Snyder might be on the way out. You got to take advantage and win this first-round series. You have to. Obviously, if he's more hurt than we think, that changes everything, but I'm expecting him to play, and I need to see him win this series.
Yeah, I understand where that's coming from. Again, the injury kind of threw it off for me because now you kind of give him a built-in excuse if he doesn't. He's not 100%.
Yeah.
But if he was 100% going in, like I said, I think they sweep him if he is.
Mhm.
But he does need to win a playoff series. Number 4 for me, going to be a little interesting. I'm putting Embiid up there
Oh.
because I think Embiid has played to that MVP level. I also think Embiid is going to have to carry the team a little bit. And I think Embiid kind of invites this pressure on himself with a lot of the talking he does in the media, with a lot of everything. He's kind of been there, the backbone. He kind of pushed Simmons out, even though Simmons was already having the thing. This is his team. He needs to go out and win it. I like Embiid as the number 4. If they lose, it's not going to be on Embiid. Spoiler alert, we're going to have another one of his teammates up there in the top 3 somewhere.
Yeah.
But if they lose, Embiid's going to get a little bit of ridicule on that. And I think Embiid needs to step up and take care of it.
I think that's very fair. I think that's a good one. You're right. Even though Embiid's played so well and he's played well in the playoffs and everything, and Ben Simmons got the flack for what happened against Atlanta last year. Embiid should have finished him off, and he wasn't able to. So I think that's a good one. My number 4 is Donovan Mitchell, and this is why a lot of people think that's weird because he's still young and stuff like that. But you kind of said it, man. He's dropped a bunch of 40-point games. They had a 2-0 lead to the Clippers last year to finally make the West Finals in a year where they maybe could have actually competed with the Suns. I mean, they were the number 1 seed last year, and they dropped a 2-0 series lead and lost 4 in a row to the Clippers. Donovan Mitchell's played well, but if he wants to be talked about like some of these people talk about him like as a real superstar in this game, same thing. I want to see him win series. I want to see him put all this drama behind him and win, because I'm telling you this, Sean, if they lose, especially in the way that you're predicting, and I'm with you on this, things are getting shaken up big time. And I don't think it's just Rudy Gobert out. I think Donovan Mitchell might force his way out. I think that whole Jazz team might implode, and it's on Donovan Mitchell's shoulders to get it done. I want to see him get it done. I want to see him. I hate how the way things ended. He was all disappointed last year about it. Well, I want to see him do something about it. He's my number 4.
Yeah, I completely can see that happening as well. I think them getting rid of Ingles is going to kind of make a big difference in that as well.
Yep.
Kind of weird scenario there. I could see that getting blown up and either Gobert or him get out, or maybe both. Completely agree with you. Number 3, I don't know where you're going to have this guy, so this is kind of interesting. Number 3 for me is Kyrie. You set out most of the season.
Yep.
You've played like 30 games. It's time for you to carry your part of the load here and really carry the Nets over with KD. It's time for him to step up and be that guy that he thinks he is and that he's shown he can be in situations. You didn't play half the year. Now it's time to go out and prove what you are. You should be healthy, should be good to go. I think Kyrie has a lot of pressure on him because I do think if they lose, especially early, he's going to catch the brunt of the blame on it.
He will.
So that's who it's on. I think it's going to be Kyrie at number 3 for me.
Kyrie's number 3 for me as well. I have him at number 3 as well. And everything you said is spot on. He's playing great right now. He is. But he was the reason why they're not a number 1 seed. He's the reason why they're not a number 2 seed, a number 3 seed. He's the reason why they have to play a very good opponent in the first round like the Boston Celtics. And because of that, he's got to show up. And especially, Sean, if they lose to Boston, a team that he wanted nothing to do with, a team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals when he was on the team, but he was hurt, that is going to look really bad on him. And while I think Kevin Durant will get some flack because it will be, again, he's not able to carry the team, Kyrie's too good. Kyrie's got to make things happen, and Kyrie's my number 3 as well.
So here we go at the top 2. And I don't know. The way you worded Kyrie, I thought you were going to have – I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know who your top 2 is, but I know one of them is going to match mine. And it's obviously going to be Harden. It's just is he 2 or 1.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have KD on this list or not.
You'll find out.
Because I don't.
Okay.
But I understand if you do.
Yeah.
Number 2 for me is Jimmy Butler.
Ooh. Wow. I didn't see this. I like this. Go ahead.
I think Jimmy Butler he's asked out of 2 different teams because he's the guy. Then he made the finals in the bubble. Last year, disappointing. You got to go out and prove it this year. You're the number 1 seed. You saw yourself arguing with Spoelstra over there. You're this fiery guy. You say you're the leader. You carry these teammates. You went out there and battled Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins and all them when you were in Minnesota. You battled with Embiid and Simmons. You bounced around. You got to the team you wanted to be. It's time to go win big. Time to go win big out there. You're healthy in this playoffs now. No excuses on that. Jimmy Butler has to come in and play to his level and back up what he's been saying for all these years. He feels like he's this competitor that no one else is. Well, go prove it out there. You're the 1 seed. Go win and make a deep run. I think Jimmy Butler's under a lot of pressure to do that. And I think he should get killed if he doesn't, to be honest, with the way he's carried himself.
I think that's a phenomenal pick. I didn't see that coming, dude. You backed it up really well. It's kind of like Harden. I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of like Harden. That's a really good one. So to answer your question, KD's not on my list either. And this is why. Because I don't look at KD that way.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think KD's good enough to carry a team like that he has on the Nets. I don't think KD's a great player. I think he's a great player, but I don't look at him as one of the best players ever. So to me, I don't see the pressure on him because I just don't look at him that way. That's it. And again, I know people are going to hate on that so much, but that's just my thought of KD. I think he's an awesome scorer. He was a good defender when he was in Golden State in a good defensive scheme. He's not a good defender now. And I don't put pressure on him because I don't think he's ever going to win a title unless he's with the Golden State Warriors. I don't think
we're opposite on the reasoning. I don't have him in the pressure because I feel like it's going to fall to Kyrie more so because he didn't play it all year. Because, like I said, like you said, they'd be a higher seed right now if Kyrie was able to play. And it's not his own fault. It's his choice to get vaccinated or not. But that's why the pressure's on Kyrie and not on KD. So now I'm interested to see your 2 because I know we're going to have the same like. It's one of the 2. We both have the beard somewhere on it. I can't wait to see who your other person is because I honestly thought you might have had KD on there. So who's your 2?
My number 2 is Chris Paul.
Oh, okay. You have CP a lot higher. Okay.
I have CP. Listen, man. I respect CP. I think he's an awesome point guard, and I think you were right when you said he can't hurt his legacy, but he can sure as hell help it, bro.
Oh yeah.
And it is time for him to do it. And this is why I put the pressure on. Sean, every single year when the playoffs come around, why do we always hear about Chris Paul then getting hurt in the playoffs? Why does it always – it happened last year. It happened last year. It happened the year before. It can't happen this year, Sean. This Suns team, me and you have raved about from start to finish. They should win the title. And if they don't, Chris Paul, man, if they don't, I think it's going to be because Chris Paul got hurt or because they run into a Bucks team that's just unstoppable. But if Chris Paul stays healthy and plays his type of ball and helps these young guns on Phoenix, they should win it all. And I think he has so much that could help him if they win. That's why I put the pressure on him at number 2. I think he could change everything. If he can win a title with a team like Phoenix that has been so bad for so long, it would be remarkable for his legacy. Again, I don't think his legacy can get hurt. So I know some people will probably come back and say, then you have him too high. But I just think it could be so impacted that I have him at number 2.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from on that. Like I said, it's the same reasoning really that we have. But I would like to point this out. In one of the previous pods we did, when he first hurt that wrist after the All-Star break, I said that's the best thing that could happen to him.
You did.
If he gets hurt again in the playoffs, then that's just crazy to me that it happened like that. Because you see guys get hurt year in and year out, like every year they're just injury prone or something crazy happens that way. But this time Chris Paul finally got hurt at the right time of year and not when it mattered. So I'm really hoping that break he took really keeps him healthy for the playoff run this time. And this is the year they can get over the hump with him actually playing the full assortment of games at 100%. That was the best thing that could happen to him, I believe, him hurting his wrist at the All-Star break and being able to come back. So I really hope that comes out. But as everyone probably assumed and as everyone knows, number 1's Harden.
It's not
even it's the same thing I said about Jimmy Butler, only this dude's won MVPs. Like that's really what it is. He's just a better player than Jimmy Butler. So Harden's got to come through and win this thing, man. At least get a deep run. get a deep run going. You got Embiid out there. You ask off a team with Kyrie and KD, and now Kyrie's back. So you probably had a better chance with them, if we're being honest. Now you're out there with the Sixers. You got to pull your weight, and you're playing with the MVP candidate. He's got to pull his weight, and he's got to really make a run. I really want to see him win at least 2 playoff series, get to that Eastern Conference Finals, really put up a good series or a good fight in it, or either get there and win it all in the title. It's going to come down to Harden playing like James Harden, and which he hasn't done since the trade. But he's under the most pressure to do so, because if he doesn't, Philly is going to kill him hard. The national media is going to kill him, and it's all well deserved. You asked to be there, you got to go perform.
Bro, you are spot on. I think Harden, I mean, this might sound crazy, man. I think Harden has as much pressure on him. I'll say a little bit less, because no one's ever had this much pressure as LeBron had on him after the Dallas Mavericks series in 2011, where it was just a disaster. And with that Heat team, he had to come back. Again, not as much, because no one's ever going to have that much pressure. That was like insane. This, not only has this dude forced his way out, but he's done it in terrible ways. He comes in fat. He comes in out of shape. Then he goes to a team that's, I want to be here. I want to win a championship with KD. He leaves them in a year and a half. Now, this is the difference between Jimmy Butler and Harden. Jimmy Butler's done all those things, and he's still playing Jimmy Butler basketball. Like, he's still playing damn good. Like, he's Jimmy Butler. That's him. Harden has now done this, and something's dropped off, bro. His game is not good right now. He can't hit the outside shot. He doesn't have the step back going on. He's not a scorer right now. It's so weird, man. And I don't know if it's the pressure. I don't know if he's out of shape. I don't know if he's hurt, but something is wrong with Harden. And if he doesn't get to the Eastern Conference Finals, there's going to be so many issues that happen, man. Do they give him a max deal this offseason? Do they fire Doc Rivers and give him his coach in Mike D'Antoni? Like, Philadelphia might do to him what they did to Ben Simmons. And does he then act up and want to leave after everything they traded? Like, I'm telling you, man, it will be an utter disaster if he doesn't at least make the East Finals. And another thing is, Sean, they are set up to do it, because they don't get Milwaukee and they don't get Brooklyn until the East Finals. You don't see Milwaukee in the second round. You see Miami. You don't see Brooklyn in the first round like Boston does, which you see Toronto. Like, you're set up to do this now. You got to get it done. Like, you got to get it done.
Yeah. And let me throw out a little bit of why I think Harden's playing so bad. And let me see if you agree with this, because I haven't really seen this be talked about that much. I think it's twofold. Number one, I think out of everyone in the league, and everyone thought it was going to be like 4 or 5 players that are affected, I think it really just affected Harden. The rule change about being able to get touched and really throw your body around for the foul, I think it affected Harden more than anyone. A lot of people thought it would affect Trae Young and Doncic about the same. The thing about them two is they're kind of young and dumb and don't really know better than like running. They'll just still bowling ball into people, and they're going and creating so much contact that it's still a foul. Harden was never really getting hit that hard when he was getting the fouls. He was kind of finessing it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Harden's at that age where he don't want to get hit like that.
Yep. And
I think it's affecting him a little bit, because I think everything about his shot was predicated on the fact that he gets to watch the ball go through the rim several times at the free throw line.
Yes.
So I think it's throwing his whole game off. The other thing I think is throwing that off is he's never really played with an Embiid type big man, where Embiid's not going to try to pick and roll the whole game, but he wants to be on the elbow or the block. And I think people try to counter Embiid by playing 2 big men, and it's throwing Harden going to the lane off more, because he's dealing with not 1 but 2 big men, where usually he'd just deal with the 1 big man that was on like Capella in Houston, or he'd deal with the 1 big man that KD's dragging out to the 3-point line in Brooklyn. he's dealing with two big men now where one plays off help to deal with Embiid because they don't have enough shooters around. Because if we're being honest, Maxey and Tobias and all of them are streaky shooters. So I think that's what's affecting Harden's game the most and why he's not putting up the numbers. And it actually might take an off season for him to figure that out. It doesn't change the pressure thing, but they're definitely going to have to adjust that a little bit and space it out. I could totally see D'Antoni being the one they bring in to do that, like you mentioned earlier in the show about coaching, because I think that's what's going to help Harden in the end. But he's got to play a better game right now, and he's got to make the Eastern Conference Finals, like you said, because he's definitely under the most pressure.
He's got to. And I think you're spot on. I think that was a really good breakdown. I think the rule is affecting him. And I think the big man thing that you're talking about, just the less space he has down there and the harder it is for him to hit that floater or to get to the rim because the double big man, you're spot on. But again, it's all figure it out. You're an MVP. Just like you said, you are an MVP. Man, people were talking about a couple years ago, people were literally talking about, is he the greatest scorer ever? Like, is the way he used to score the ball. And it's just fallen off. And the other thing is, like, and maybe it is, he needs to see it in the basket, but his 3-point shot, his famous step back, is shit. It's terrible now. He can't hit it worth a damn. Like, man, this guy has a couple days to figure it out. And if he doesn't, Philly is going to destroy him. And it really makes me wonder, Sean, if he ends up wanting to leave because they're going to be so harsh on him.
Like, I don't think he can leave that.
He better not. I mean,
he's got Morey's there, yeah. Daryl Morey's going to do everything he can to keep Harden.
Sure, for sure. But it's going to be rough in that house if he doesn't come through and make the Eastern Conference Finals at least. So we'll have to see. Great list. Really good list. Love that. That was a lot of fun here. That is Sean White. I'm Kayvon Izami. Look out for our draft pod coming out later this week, and then look out for our NBA playoff predictions that will come out before the playoffs start on Saturday. And then again, we'll do a couple more draft pods next week. We'll do our own, both of us, final mock draft before Thursday night of the draft. And then Thursday night of the draft, we will do a live show, Money Down Pod on YouTube, me, Sean, and you guys for the whole first round, bring it all down. So stay tuned for that. Please like, subscribe, rate, review. It means the world to us. Let us know your comments. We always answer them, and we will continue to answer them. Sean, this was fun, man. Have a good night.